Hi guys, welcome to the weekly roundup. This is an indication of what's driving the housing market, where it's going, the numbers behind this. So we're going to look at some of the numbers for Rightmove. Now again, this is the week for the 21st to the 27th of February. This shows you all the number of transactions actually listed with every single estate agent across Fife versus the number of transactions actually sold with every estate agent across Fife. This is a real good indicator, as I said, of the supply and demand and whether you should be expecting to pay higher prices or receive higher prices for your property by area, by region. Okay, so let's look at the for the week past. So the Cooper region, 5 came onto the market, 13 sold. East Neuk 4 and 4. St Andrews, quite a surprise this time because St Andrews is usually lagging behind. 4 came onto the market, 11 sold. A wee flurry from people. Leavenmouth 13 versus 17. Dunfermline 43 versus 40. That's actually quite surprising because Dunfermline's been outpacing in demand recently. Glenrothes 13 versus 9. Again, that's quite a surprise. More coming onto the market. Maybe it's slowing down a bit. We'll see overall. Kirkcaldy 33 versus 31. And overall for the week, 115 properties came onto the market across Fife with all the estate agents, and 115 sold. Actually, supply and demand are coming to an equilibrium in terms of the numbers. But let's look at the numbers as opposed to the whole of January and the whole of February. So this is actually quite a revealer here. The whole of January versus the whole of February suggests Cooper itself, 56 came onto the market, 73 sold, 143%. So basically, demand's outstripping supply. East Neuk 18 versus 24. Now this is from, remember, here it is here, January to February. So this is the month of January and February this year in total itself. So St Andrews 50 versus 44. Again, as I've reiterated, St Andrews 88%, meaning that, you know, prices are maybe a bit keen in terms of the St Andrews area, but there still is good activity for people in terms of where we are. Leavenmouth 76 versus 101, so 133%. So demand is clearly outstripping supply in the Leavenmouth area this year. Dunfermline 233 versus 268. Glenrothes 83 versus 98. Again, 118%. And Kirkcaldy 222 versus 238, 107%. So every single region outperforming for the start of the year up to the end of February, up to the end of the 27th, which is yesterday, all the instructions, except for St Andrews. Remember, just because it's St Andrews, it doesn't sell itself. It takes a real good agent to do that. Okay, so let's talk Turkey about the numbers. Let's look at the Zoopla report. So this is Zoopla's housing report. Zoopla does a house price index. Good evening, Andrea. How are you? Zoopla does a house price index. Now, they've actually predicted the current UK house prices are sitting year on year up to the end of January at 4.3% higher. I mean, house prices have climbed 0.3% in January, taking the annual growth rate to 4.3, matching the highest rate of growth since April 2017. Price growth in the country and the regional levels, 2.8 in London, 5.5 in the Northwest, and 5.6 in Wales, and Scotland's just is equilibrium. So demand for housing is still ahead of last year. Buyer demand is remaining strong in the first 6 weeks of 2021. It is up 12.4%. So compared to the same point last year, when demand had rebounded after the general election result in 2019, and the flow for new buyers comes despite the imminent ending of the stamp duty holiday. Well, that's what they said, and that was just before the Chancellor, or the Times actually, gave a wee precursor to the possibility that stamp duty will be extended, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So robust levels of demand signals a continuation of a trend that we have highlighted since the summer last year. While stamp duty has prompted higher levels of activity, there's still a cohort of buyers and movers are looking for a new home after the reassessment of how and where they're living after repeated lockdowns. This is what's driving it. Repeated lockdowns are getting people to assess, wait a minute, if I'm going to be here for a long time, like I've been recently, I need to get a space to enjoy. I need to get a back garden to enjoy. I need to get an extra room for a home office to work from. These are all the things that everybody's demanding now. So that's what's driving the market forward. I also believe as well we'll possibly have a mini boom coming again. And the reason for that is basically there's a lot of people who've been sitting in lockdown. They've not moved. Clearly, we can see there by the numbers from since the start of the year, the number of properties coming on versus the number of properties being bought is a lot less. So demand's outstripping supply again. Therefore, I have a feeling when we get to spring, this month onwards, in springtime, you'll see a lot more properties coming onto the market because now lockdown's out the way, kids are going back to school, and everybody's now in full flow. So I think that's what will happen. So as demand remains high and the number of homes being listed for sale is not keeping pace, putting sustained upward pressure on pricing. This is where you've got to look at the regions as well. The pricing is going up and up and up and up because there's no supply coming on and there's more demand there as a result. We've seen since the start of the year a 54% year-on-year increase in our website activity. We've also seen, when you think about it, the supply has halved since this time last year. Over the whole of Fife, 1,200 properties last year were available for sale. This year, at this point in time, you can go in and do it yourself on Rightmove or Zoopla. You just go in and you do a search over the whole of Fife and you see what's available. You take out the ones that are sold already, and you've probably got just over about 600 properties. There's half of the properties that there was last year, and that went into a boom. So where's it going to go now? So prices are going to continue to go up as a result of it. Okay, so there are two reasons why new supply is currently constrained. As we highlighted at the start of the year, some sellers are putting pressure and inviting potential buyers into your home for viewings. That's obviously a must as well. People are maybe not sure about getting people into their houses. I can assure you it's all about virtual viewings. It's all about people seeing your property first and making sure they get to see it first. They're in a position to proceed. The government said quite clearly they're allowed to do that if they're in a position to proceed. So we actually follow that procedure and guideline to make that happen. The data also signals a second factor emerging, increasing demand for first-time buyers who have no property to sell when they move. You've also got the First Home Fund, which will be coming back in. This will give, if anybody wants to see the First Home Fund or what it's all about, we have more than happy to give you that. Just message me direct. But we have a 10-minute vlog on our YouTube channel with Neil Bird from Cara Mortgages talking about the First Home Fund. The First Home Fund will basically give every first-time buyer in Scotland up to £25,000 towards their first deposit to buy their first house. And that will be coming back, as far as I'm aware, from April onwards for every first-time buyer. Now, it has to be done quickly because, as last year demonstrated, we got to September and they ran out of money. So they suspended the First Home Fund until probably this April it's coming up. So I think the Scottish Government's going to bring that back in as far as we're aware. And again, that'll fuel the market for first-time buyers. First-time buyers are going up more and more and more and more. As we see, the percentage of first-time buyers are getting a lot more. So there's a lot more people getting onto the housing market ladder as a result of that. So that's the Zoopla property prices and the index. Extra stamp duty holiday. Well, the Times, as you can see here, the Times actually broke silence on this, and they actually said there is a consensus that they think, it's usually just been leaked to them, to be honest, before the budget, that the Chancellor is going to increase the stamp duty, the stamp duty deadline to the end of June. Now, if that happens, if you get your house on the market now and you get it under offer, you'll probably beat the stamp duty deadline again, because there is also pressure from the Law Society and the conveyancers as well to say that you're actually going to just create another cliff edge here. Basically, we're going to get to the end of June and then everybody's going to miss that deadline and then people are going to have to pay the penalty for it. So they're actually suggesting everybody that's sold their house before the end of March in the financial year, which is when the deadline was meant to end, if they've sold their house, they should be given the luxury of having the stamp duty exemption when their property goes through finally for sale. So if you want to get that done, you need to put your house on now to get an offer on it before the end of March to then buy another property before the end of March and commit to hit that deadline, what it is. But there'll be more of that come out in the budget itself in this coming week. And again, that, you can go in and type into Google anything you want in terms of that stamp duty extension extended and it'll give you more information on that as well. Final item I want to talk about, and you can look at your own leisure. You can watch the vlog, you could listen to the vlog and the podcast, and you can also read the vlog, which is 4 minutes. Behind the scenes, what does an estate agent do for their money? Well, this is it here. This is the type of things. It's actually understanding the market, and it's understanding when to make the right decision and what to advise your seller and the buyer in order what they need to do to get to the next steps based on what you know about the market. So it's understanding the market, it's understanding people's needs, and it's all this homework that goes on in the background. Continuous education at the end of the day. Maybe for some estate agents, maybe for some estate agents it's not. So this is all about, the story I did here was all about matchmaking. So in other words, some of the things we do behind the scenes in matchmaking, also building the dream of people, creative content, using videos that are quite emotive in order to spur people to actually consider a property that they might not actually consider before, and also get that social reach as well outside of normal portal websites like Rightmove, Prime Location and Zoopla, because not everybody goes to these websites. I mean, 50% of our audience actually don't visit Rightmove at all. So we have a completely different audience, which actually are ready to go even before they get to Rightmove. And they have just decided they're ready to go, but we know how to retarget these people through social media channels. So that's another way to do that, and another way to get a market. Also market monitoring, like I'm talking about just now, the process of hand-holding as well, taking people through the necessary process from the journey from start to end, and not just finishing at the point when you sell it. A lot of estate agents just actually end it at the point of sale, and they pass it on to the conveyancers or the legal team in order to do their job after that. But what we do is follow that process all the way through to make sure everything works and all the ducks are in a row. So that's one of the things that we'll do as well as problem solving. Someone actually made a comment today on one of our pages, or maybe messaged us independently, and actually said something about, what price is the property on it, because I'm ready to go, or I'm maybe ready to go, I'm not really sure, and my house is valued at that because I've got somebody else to value it. And I said, okay, it sounds like you're not too sure about your processes and what you're doing. So maybe it's a point that I should have a wee chat with you and put you in the right position, because after all, I don't just sell houses. I solve problems. That's ultimately what I do. That's why our tagline is helping you manage life as it happens. So it's not just about selling houses, being an estate agent. It's about the whole thing and how it all fits in. It's about moving house. It's about arranging house. It's about maybe arranging schools. It's maybe about having the best places to stay, knowing where the parks are, knowing where the beach is, knowing where the golf courses are, knowing what activities and recreation are around in the area. That is what we solve, and that's what we find for people. And that's the matchmaking process as well. So that's all valuable information to help people make the decision. Sometimes they come along and say, that property is not for me, but then when you explain to them everything that's in the area and what they can do with the property, they actually turn around and say, actually, now I think about it, I'm going to put an offer in. And that's our job, to get that over to them. Okay, so I think that's it. If you've got any further questions, guys, please feel free to message me. I'm more than happy to take your questions later on, or you can just give me a call direct or email us direct at any of the offices. And until next week, guys, for the weekly property roundup, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV.